Hello, welcome to Embodied Style Special Edition with a friend, Corinna Raznikov, who's a professional wedding photographer of...
Well, I'm a retired wedding photographer.
Retired. And that's part of the journey, right, that we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah. I'm a family photographer now, but I am a 26-year retired wedding photographer.
How many weddings do you think you've done?
I think I've shot over 250 weddings.
250 weddings.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
being at 250 weddings?
Yeah.
So that weaves into the journey we're going to talk about with Corinna, because it means a lot to me that people have been approaching me and telling me they watch the channel and they're learning things. And I keep saying I would talk about these things even if nobody watched, because I just can't help it. But knowing that...
Well, I'm watching.
She's out there watching.
Yeah,
You're watching.
I love it because it's all about, it's not about like, oh, look at me, I'm so cute. It's all about everybody being their own kind of beautiful and figuring out who that is. And that really comes across on your channel.
That makes me so happy because I certainly have really developed my self-love, and I want that to come across, and I don't want to shy away from being like, yeah, I look good. This looks good, right, guys?
I know, I love that. And and I'm on, you've done yoga teacher training.
Yes.
And I'm in yoga teacher training right now. And the self-love part is coming up for me. And realizing that I've had body dysmorphia a lot of my life. And luckily for me, my trans son pointed out to me, Mom, you have body dysmorphia too. And I was like, oh my God, you are brilliant. Of course I have. And so this type of, learning to love yourself again, compassion. So it all comes together.
That means a lot, because I know I'm talking about style and people ask, what do you talk about on your channel? And I say style, but I'm thinking, but it's so much more.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people about it, inevitably the layers of the onion start to peel back, and everyone has so much built up trauma around their bodies.
Yeah,
and
women in the Western world. Trauma.
And what we could afford to do, and what we had access to, and the influences we had, it's just, it's so deep. And I know if I start talking to people about their style, it's really gonna bring up a lot. I wanted to know the space that we're in is Power and Grace Yoga, which is my sister's yoga studio, and Corinna's taking.
And I'm in Svaha yoga teacher training.
Yes.
Here.
And I think this is perfect because this community has created a space where everybody's truly accepted, and you walk in here and you feel it. There's no dress code. There's no like, I'm wearing my matching yoga set, and I love matching yoga sets, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing like you feel like you have to be a certain way to set foot in the studio. It's all ages, it's all kinds of people, so it just feels so appropriate to be here. And I actually would like us to just take a minute to take a few deep breaths, because I think bringing in some connection to yourself and your body before you start kind of unearthing some of your challenges is really important. So let's take a moment, you out there too, to ground in by taking a deep breath and feeling into your heart, and feeling your heart radiate out through your body, like pulsing through you, and kind of wrapping the energy of your heart around your entire body, all those curves and spaces that you might ignore or push away or feel like you need to change, wrapping your heart energy around those precious parts of your body, and letting whatever comes up. I actually feel like teary-eyed, like I can feel those parts of me calling out, like, oh, thank you for giving me attention and loving me. And forgiving yourself for any negative self-talk you might have engaged in. And we're going to give ourselves a chance to release some of that by taking a deep breath and exhaling out some of that negative self-talk, just letting it go, letting it wash its way out of you. When doing this, we're creating this safe vessel to bring to the surface some of these things that might be upsetting or traumatic to us, and knowing that they have a safe space within us to be held. So you can, when you're ready, open your eyes and give yourself a little hug. Love you, body. Love you. We're gonna dress you up nice. So yeah, Corinna has said some really interesting things to me already about what you appreciated about the channel and kind of your journey or the family you grew up with. So I'd love to hear more about like what was your messaging around body growing up.
Yeah, well, I'm 55, so I grew up in the 80s, and I think it was really hard to be a young girl in the 80s. Everybody had to be a certain way to be beautiful. And in my family, I'm from a Jewish family that's had a lot of body dysmorphia. You know, you can never be too rich or too thin. And my grandmother, who I love, Grandma Sylvia, spent a lot of time obsessing about the way that I looked and the way that she looked. And we all carried extra weight. We're all kind of zaftig. Do you know that word, zaftig?
No.
It's Yiddish for curvy. We're zaftig women. I love that word. It's better than plus size. Yeah. A little zaftig.
Is that a word that's celebrated or looked at?
Gosh, you know, it's mixed. It's mixed, you know. So yeah, you could say, oh, she's zaftig. Or you could say, oh, she's a zaftig lady. It's just a little negative, you know. She's a little round, she's a little curvy. And we're Polish, Russian, Ukrainian. We're, you know, kind of we're in the body types. We're talking about the doshas. I'm more of a kapha, you know, very heavy boned. And in the 80s, and even now in the Western world, vata, very thin bone-like women.
Yeah.
Looking like you know heroin chic
was
very big in the 80s.
Yep. And
looking like you
Kate
were
Moss.
looking like you were addicted to drugs and you know dying.
Yeah.
Was very popular.
Talk about trauma. And I love the overlay of all these systems, like you mentioned Ayurvedic systems with Pitta, Kapha, Vata, and you can see those reflected in the Kibbe body type system. That's why I think like this system's not like the right one. There's so many out there, and they all kind of interweave because I think of Kapha as being more of like the naturals and the soft naturals with like the bigger blunt bones. The Vatas would be the dramatics with their really angular features, and then the Pittas might be, well, that's interesting actually. Pitta I could see in a lot of categories. I'll have to think about that, but yeah, Kapha being like kind of like this earthy, kind of denser energy. So that's very interesting. And then the use of language, that word that you just shared, what was it again?
Zaftig.
Zaftig. So like the word thick has become a flattering compliment now. If you call a woman thick, it's like she's curvy. Oh yeah, thank goodness to like.
That was not the way, like, because I'm, you know, so I was born in 1969, so that, you know, Twiggy, Kate Moss, you know, Charlie's Angels, Friends is incredibly, that was very difficult for women watching Friends. All the women on there were all Vatas, and there was all that obsession with Monica being heavy.
Yes.
It went on and on and on. My husband like rewatched the series, and I was like, oh, my poor darling little Corinna, watching Friends, constantly hearing messaging about how inadequate you were. Yeah. And also just, you know, that the obsession with women's physical outside, you know?
Yes. That's a whole, I don't even want to
don't even go
scratch that one yet, because the like obsession with how women look, but then also like I'm obsessed with how I look, and I don't think, and that doesn't feel like evoke insecurity with me. It's like something that I just love to think about and love to explore. So there's a way to be positive about your appearance.
Absolutely.
Like,
I agree.
Because I also am not one that's like, well, then women just shouldn't wear makeup and shouldn't have to do anything.
No,
and
you don't feel beautiful.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything, but you also shouldn't feel. I'm seeing this kind of wave of shaming women who do want to put in the effort, and I'm not here for that either. So finding that balance is interesting to me. But this term thick is like, thank goodness for the emergence of like hip hop culture and Latin cultures post 80s that brought in some like, you know,
total post 80s.
Yeah, J-Lo was like, it was too late for you. The trauma was in there, and you know, for me too in the 90s. But like when J-Lo came on the scene and everyone was obsessed with her booty, and like now you can be thick and that can be seen as a good thing. That was not the case in the time period
it wasn't, and it's and it wasn't for my mom or my grandmother either. There were very certain body types, and I'm so grateful that we're now in this time period where hopefully young women can hear that there's all types of beauty.
That was so eye-opening when I learned about Kibbe. Was, oh, there's 13 types, and there's like a celebrity in each of those categories, and they're all beautiful in very different ways. And I realized, oh, you can be beautiful with all these different types of attributes. I just thought there's this one body type we're all trying to funnel into, and I think it's like a Jennifer Aniston. I think it's like a, and then I realized, oh no, there's all these like pathways. And when I took the Kibbe quiz, which we'll talk about a little bit, it was instantly soft dramatic for me. It was like, actually, I think I read soft dramatic first before I took the quiz, and was like, oh my God, this all makes sense. And it just like turned on this light bulb. This is like my version of beauty is somewhere in here. And I just felt so celebrated. And then I would see a woman that was a dramatic and be like, oh, you're a dramatic, and look, like this looks so good on you. So yeah, helping women find that is very like, means a lot to me.
Yeah, and that's why I was interested in the work. Is I was like, I'm interested in learning how to be my own kind of beautiful. So, I want to find out my Kibbe body type.
Yeah.
And
so we will, I think off screen, we're going to talk about the quiz, because I think it's a little clunky, it's not easy, it's a lot of back and forth, and maybe at some point I will do it on camera, but I also like, okay, we're going to really analyze Corinna's body, and I'm not sure like we're comfortable with that yet, so for now I'll do it off camera, but I'll talk about kind of the discussion that we had. But I'm curious too about, you were talking about the wedding industry affected your body image and how you saw yourself, like what that journey was like.
We were talking about that off camera too, which is, one, I had the 80s, which is I think a difficult time period, and then I became a photographer, and was really interested in finding everybody, like I love seeing how everyone is their own type of beautiful. So as a portrait photographer with kids and adults, but then to make a living, I got involved in the wedding industry, and that kind of peeled away, everybody being an individual, because brides were supposed to look a certain way. And I was working, trying to make a living, supporting my family in an industry that was very a certain type. And so I almost felt, even though there are beautiful and positive things about love in the wedding industry, there are some really negative things about the underbelly of the wedding industry, the way that I was doing it, which is supporting that things look a certain way and not be authentic. So that was really, soul destroying for me to constantly be focused on everything had to be a certain way and not be authentic. And I stopped being my authentic self. And I think a lot of wedding vendors get into that. It makes them, trying to, be part of the dream team, making, being the best wedding photographer, being the best wedding florist. And I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, you're saying you won an award for that. I thought this was interesting. Like you had reached kind of the pinnacle of what you thought you wanted in your career, but there was an emptiness.
I won Best of Boston in 2014 from Boston Magazine, and that was like my goal. I wanted everyone to think I was so fabulous, and because I felt not fabulous about myself, so I needed to win awards to make myself feel fabulous. And I was working super hard, wearing all black, really feeling less than. I felt like the ugly stepsister after a while, after shooting like 200 weddings, constantly being the support staff, and the ideal body type is a size 0, and it was just exhausting. And so kind of over proving yourself and hating yourself at the same time, I really got into that trap.
Oh God, can anyone resonate with that? Put a thumbs up if you're like, yeah. And then when you do it, you feel like this isn't what I want. And
so I won the award, and I was like, oh, I have to keep on proving myself and winning awards to feel good about myself. This is not sustainable.
No, thank you.
And I don't actually want to be a wedding photographer. I want to go back to being a portrait photographer and celebrating individual people being their own kind of beautiful, not the Western world size 0, bride.
And now you can have
So.
conversations with them about what is your vision. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
that vision. What's
Yeah.
the lighting? And even just sitting down to do this video, Corinna's like, this is a good place because like she knows her stuff. Like this is much better than the lighting I give you when I do it from my bedroom. So where are you feeling stuck now? Like my channel resonating because you're like, oh, I want to learn some tips. I feel stuck, or
Yeah, well, I have a size 16 body. You know, I have a lovely, fabulous, softed body, and sometimes I put something on and I'm like, oh wow, I feel really beautiful, but I'm not really sure what it is that's happening. Like I bought this blanket skirt because I'm cold, and I put it on. I was like, wow, this looks amazing on me. Why does this look amazing on me? I have no idea.
It's a wrap. What material is it?
It's I don't have it right here, but it's like a wool wraparound skirt.
Yeah.
And I put it on, and I put on like little boots with it, and I was like, why does this work so well? Do I have to wear a wraparound blanket to
forever?
feel?
That's it. That's
that was my one. And then I started noticing, like I thought V-necks maybe worked better on me, and but I just was like, and I don't want to be constantly buying new clothing. I have tons of clothes, and I just want to sort of reshop my closet and figure out,
yes,
what's happening and what I can do.
That's one of my favorite terms, shop your closet, because it's amazing how like our eyes aren't seeing things that are right in front of us in ways that we can rearrange them. And those are all clues, what you're saying about the wrap skirt. Like I put it on, it felt right. And for me, when I read the soft dramatic description, all these things I had kind of intuited all came together, and I saw them in writing. Like you're not a baseball cap kind of girl. You're a big glamorous hat kind of girl. And I was like, oh, I knew it, And it just feels good to like see yourself mirrored in something. So we're gonna hopefully like put some of those clues together. I'm gonna ask Corinna, like, what are the things you love? Maybe send me some photos. Like, these are some of my favorite things. These are outfits I have felt comfortable in. This is a celebrity street style I've seen that I feel like I could wear that and it resonates, and start to put the pieces together. And I see that as maybe a Pinterest board we can collaborate on, and
super fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be really fun to start to shape it and figure out body type, and then go from there, and like take you all along for the journey of how it evolves. Is
Great.
there anything else you wanted to share? I feel like we could talk forever. So
I know,
think this
I've got
is
lots to
part
talk
one.
about.
Right, I know.
And just lots to talk about in terms of unraveling from being the help, being wedding help, and then all of a sudden going, oh, I'm allowed to be beautiful too. Like it's not just it's just not size 0 and size 2 women. Everybody can be beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about your site. Yeah.
It really, I can't unsee it now. I just see beauty everywhere. I really do. Everyone's so unique. Yeah.
Me too.
I know
I love people.
With your photographer's eye, I bet you're constantly
and I love meeting people and figuring out how they can be beautiful, not just as as the Western world's idea of beauty, but men and women. So
doing important work. That's important
we both
work.
Are.
Yeah.
We both are. And learning to love yourself. That's the most important thing. And then it can spill over, and you can love others.
Yeah. That is the truth. That is words of wisdom right there. It starts with you first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in for this. Much more to come. Hope you're having a good holiday season. Goodbye.